All right, so we got some breaking news. The months-long Kellogg strike, I believe it's been going on for about 2.5 months, has finally come to an end. This was with union workers across multiple states. Kellogg's is a gigantic trust, so they've come to an agreement. But just don't forget these. This is Kellogg's right here. Look at all of these brands that Kellogg's owns. And so what I'm noticing more and more now is there's more and more corporate consolidation going on in the U.S. I'll even notice this when I'm going to certain stores. Like when I went to Champs, for example, the cashier told me that their sister companies are like Foot Action, I think Foot Locker, and all these other stores. And I'm like, you're supposed to be competing against those. How are you owned by the same parent company? You're supposed to be competing against each other. I was at Barnes & Noble just the other day, and I heard the cafe person say that, they make Starbucks drinks. And it's like, oh, Starbucks owns you guys. Great. You're supposed to be competing against Starbucks. You're not supposed to be Starbucks. So this is really shitty. You can see all of these brands are owned by the same thing. It's literally Kellogg's is a trust. So when you talk about trust busting would be literally breaking up Kellogg's. And this is what needs to happen all across the United States. The government needs to forcefully break apart these trusts. Like they would have to force Kellogg's to sell off a bunch of these brands. This leads to barriers to entry, and it leads to less efficiency because one corporation has all this power. It leads to monopsonies, which means that there's only one one purchaser in the resource market. The resource market being labor. So workers only have one person to negotiate with instead of being able to negotiate with multiple employers. And so that's why these unions are so important, because their wages get suppressed. They lose power because instead of being able to negotiate with a bunch of different employers for these different brands and companies, it's all under one company. So in the United States, it's this fake illusion of competition. There's no real competition in the U.S. Any company you can think of, do you think are competing against each other? Like Old Navy is owned by Gap. I think the jewelry industry is all owned by like one parent company. So it's all a joke. There's no real competition in the United States. The United States is a joke. And so this is still bad, and this is something that we need to seriously at least bring awareness to, because I don't even know how many people know about how horrible corporate consolidation is. It takes a stranglehold of society, suppresses, wage labor, rights and things of that nature, lowers efficiency, lowers our options for things. It's horrible all around. So it says Kellogg's workers voted to ratify a new contract with the company. Their union announced Tuesday, bringing an end to an 11-week strike that captured the nation's attention. The Bakery, Confectionery, Tobacco Workers, and Grain Millers International Union, BCTGM, said that its 1,400 Kellogg's members backed the cereal maker's most recent 5-year contract offer that boosts pensions, maintains regular raises, ends the permanent 2-tier pay structure, and prevents plants from being shut down through October 2026. Our entire union commends and thanks Kellogg's members, BCTGM International President Anthony Shelton said in a statement. From picket line to picket line, Kellogg's union members stood strong and undeterred in this fight, inspiring generations of workers across the globe who were energized by their tremendous show of bravery as they stood up to fight and never once backed down. The contract ratification will bring 1,400 Kellogg's employees at plants in Michigan, Nebraska, Tennessee, and Pennsylvania back to work for the first time since they began striking on October 5th. The Kellogg company cheered the agreement Tuesday and said that it would welcome its employees back to work. That's a statement from the Kellogg spokesperson. It says the labor union's members repeatedly rejected contract offers from the Kellogg company. The reversal came after the cereal giant said that it would replace all of the striking workers, a statement that sparked criticism from prominent government officials, including Senator Bernie Sanders, Labor Secretary Marty Walsh, and President Biden. So big props to Bernie Sanders. He's been the one who's been striking with all of these union workers, and so he's fighting seriously to restore the balance towards workers away from corporations. And so he was doing it with Starbucks workers, Amazon workers. So he's definitely a beast doing all this work out here. But I do want to give some credit to President Joe Biden. Obviously, he has not been a good president, but it's important to give credit where credit is due, because you always want to be honest. We not Jimmy Dore out here. But he did send out statements and side with the Kellogg's company. So that certainly helped the strikers for sure, especially because Like the article said, they were attempting to replace all of the striking workers. This is permanently replacing striking workers is an existential attack on the union and its members' jobs and livelihoods, Biden said in a statement earlier this month. And such action undermines the critical role collective bargaining plays in providing workers a voice and the opportunity to improve their lives while contributing fully to their employers' success. Shelton on Tuesday thanked AFL-CIO President Liz Schuler and other labor advocates for mobilizing support for the strike, crediting them for keeping the pressure on the Kellogg company. Solidarity was critical to this great workers' victory. So this is definitely a great victory to see. Big ups to everybody who supported. And just don't forget about this picture. These are all the brands that are owned by Kellogg's, even like things like Cheez-Its, Pringles, Pop-Tarts, Famous Amos. I mean, this is a joke. So the government needs to break these apart because there is no competition left. And without competition, it leads to efficiency loss in the market, also leads to suppressed wages and strangleholds on society. So 1996 Telecommunications Act led to the easing of regulations that allowed over 90% of media to be owned by like 5 conglomerates. So it's a complete joke. We need more competition in order to have a real free market economy. You can't have a free market economy with these like horizontally integrated industries. It's just not a free market at that point. There's huge barriers to entry because now you have to compete with this big ass corporation. And how the hell are you going to do that? If you wanted to enter the market, you're going to have to go against all this, which is going to prove to be a huge barrier to entry. So the government needs to break this apart, and I'm really glad to see that the union was able to win this strike. This is great news. Really, really awesome to see power starting to go back into the side of workers during this pandemic.